Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Halloween is coming up. Some people are going trick-or-treating, and Muslims might be interested in joining in as well. So I thought it would be interesting to talk with Dr. Shabir about what Halloween is, what its origins are, and what different scholars have said about it.
Sure. Halloween seems to be now a conglomeration of many different celebrations from around the world, and they've kind of like coalesced in this way. So among Christians, we have All Saints' Day, and the name actually comes from that because the All Saints, another way of saying that in Old English is All Hallows, and the evening of that day is All Hallows Eve. So All Hallows Eve gets shortened to Halloween. Halloween. So that's the day on which Christians, many different denominations of Christians, for example, the Anglican Church, they may hold a service in which they are praying for their departed dead. And of course, Muslims pray for our departed dead as well. And we do that very regularly in our Friday sermons and so on, and in our daily prayers and all of that. Now, we see around the world that in Mexico, for example, you have the Day of the Dead occurring about the same time. It seems that
there's a Celtic
Yes,
holiday, the pagan, right?
Yeah, the ancient Celts had this festival of Samhain, which was a time when they believed that somehow there is an opening between the world of the dead and the world of the living. So the dead will come into the world of the living. And in order to protect their children from being kidnapped, they thought that they needed to disguise their children, maybe make them look like animals or monsters or something like this, so that they would not be known as human children and therefore kidnapped. We see that there is, among the Romans, there is a festival known as Feralia and another one known as Pomona. So all of these festivals seem to have occurred about the same time. So what about this time? We see that, in especially where there is a vast change in climate between winter and summer. November is the time when it starts to get cold. People will start to go indoors, and now they're preparing for a long, drawn winter. So whatever fun
and the days
they could
get shorter
have,
as well. Yeah.
Whatever outdoor festivity they could put together, October is about the end date for that. So that hence comes also the idea of lighting a fire, because it's starting to get cold. But people also thought that by lighting a fire, it can have some effect in driving away witches and protecting the farm and things of that nature. So with all of these, with all of this history, Muslims are looking at it and wondering, can we have anything to do with these histories, which are either Christian or even pagan? What do we do about that?
I know, Dr. Shabir, that many scholars have weighed in on this issue, and a lot of them seem to say that Muslims should stay away from Halloween, right? At the same time, I see that a lot of Muslims are participating in Halloween. They're, they're going trick-or-treating, their kids are dressing up in costumes. I guess because it's so part of our culture in Canada that many people, especially if their kids are going to public school, they're going to feel like, what's the harm, right? It's just, it's harmless fun.
Yeah. So let me see if I can draw out these different perspectives. First of all, the perspective of Muslim scholars. And I also almost said that in the singular, because his perspectives, but a large number of scholars who have written about this all over the web can be found to be saying, this is impermissible, it is haram. Some you've even used the term shirk, which means associating partners with God, which for Muslims is an unforgivable sin. Because they're looking at the pagan origins and saying, if you participate in anything of this, suddenly you've fallen into this whole big mess of shirk, of associating partners with God. That's something you can't touch with a 10-foot pole. I see that an official fatwa issuing body in Malaysia has actually given a fatwa against celebrating Halloween. Some years ago. Apparently, it became a thing that Muslims there wanted to have some participation in this, and the fatwa says strictly no. And even some scholars whom I might have expected would give a more liberal sort of ruling regarding this have weighed in against it. For example, Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui, who is the head of at the time was the head of the Fiqh Council of North America, probably still is. He also said no. And I thought by the fact that he lives in the United States of America and he knows that Muslims are going through these challenges, that he might have given some leeway in that regard. Especially since I've read a blog article from a Muslim woman who grew up in the United States of America. Now she has children, and she's wondering, my child is going to turn like 3 soon. Well, it's already about 3, and soon my child is going to be wondering, can I not go trick and treating like the rest of the people in the neighborhood? And how do Muslims struggle with this, and how can they remain so different when everybody among them are doing something which to them seems harmless? So I thought that with this reality, we might have gotten a more liberal stance, but no.
Mm-hmm.
And
I guess because Halloween to some people might not seem very wholesome, right? You go and you get you beg for candy, and then there's the trick or treating aspect, the trick part. And then you're kind of celebrating death, and gory things. So those might be some of the reasons, I think.
Yes. And of course, I was going to add that the only relief I found from all of these negative fatwas, negative not meaning that they're wrong, but that's a perspective on the negative side. And then on the positive side, I found the Darul Ifta al-Misriya, the Egyptian fatwa board. They on their website were asked about this, and they said they were asked about both Valentine's Day and Halloween, and they said, so long as you participate in some permissible aspects, that should be fine, but don't go into like what are clearly like impermissible things. But they did not get much.
I think
detail.
that's a great kind of middle path, because I think it's really great if Muslims themselves decide, right, based on their own inclinations, their own feelings, how they interact with people, what their goals are as Muslims.
Yes.
They can decide whether Halloween fits into those goals.
And the situation in which you live, and then to the extent, I mean, the least extent would be like if your kid is saying, look, all my kids are going out trick-or-treating.
All my friends, yes.
Yeah, all my friends are going out trick-or-treating. Why can I not go? And if you say that's because you're a Muslim, then that adds up in the balance sheet of cost and benefit in the child's mind. Like Islam is costing them greatly. They cannot have fun. So this is one fun thing that they're deprived of. And then there's going to be another fun thing and a third fun thing and a fourth one. So eventually that could contribute to our children leaving Islam, because it becomes like too difficult for them to be Muslim.
Mm-hmm. I should point out, Dr. Shabir, that neither of us have ever participated in Halloween. I believe. I mean, you're my father, and you've never really allowed us to do that. So I wanted to add that in.
Yeah. I've scarred you for the remainder of your life. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. And please donate to support our work at QuranSpeaks.com.